You shrug it off, but then you see it again in the rice aisle, and again in the canned goods section. It's like the shelves are slowly starting to resemble a game of Tetris after a particularly brutal loss. This isn't some dystopian novel, guys. It's a growing concern in a world grappling with climate change, supply chain disruptions, and let's be honest, some pretty wild geopolitical situations. Experts who track global food trends are noticing some alarming patterns, and they're starting to sound the alarm bells. Certain foods, from the basic building blocks of our diets to the occasional guilty pleasure, might become a lot harder to come by in the not-so-distant future. So, what can we do? Well, the first step is knowledge. All right, let's talk about wheat. It's the backbone of bread, pasta, cereal. Basically, a lot of the things that make up a normal diet. But here's the thing. Growing wheat is becoming increasingly precarious. We're talking about rising fertilizer costs, extreme weather events, and geopolitical tensions that can disrupt global trade in a heartbeat. Remember that whole situation a while back? Yeah, that kind of thing can make the price of wheat skyrocket faster than you can say sourdough starter. And while baking your own bread is rewarding, it's not a sustainable solution for everyone, especially if access to flour itself becomes unreliable. So, what can we do about the wheat situation? Well, those in the prepping community suggest having a decent stash of wheat flour on hand. Think of it like an insurance policy for your pantry. And while you're at it, maybe explore some alternative grains. Diversifying your diet not only makes you a more interesting dinner guest, but it also makes your pantry more resilient in the face of potential shortages. Next up, rice, the staple food for billions around the world. It's a pretty big deal, and yet its production is surprisingly fragile. See, rice cultivation is incredibly sensitive to changes in climate. Droughts, floods, even slight temperature shifts can significantly impact yields. And when you're talking about a crop that feeds half the planet, even small dips in production can have ripple effects across the globe. Then there's the issue of transportation. Rice travels a long way from those lush paddies to our plates, and every step of that journey is vulnerable to disruptions. Remember the whole Suez Canal fiasco? Yeah, that kind of thing can throw a wrench in the global rice trade faster than you can say sticky rice. So, what's a rice lover to do? Well, for starters, if you rely on rice as a dietary staple, having a reasonable stockpile isn't a bad idea. And when I say stockpile, I don't mean hoarding enough rice to feed a small army, unless you're into that sort of thing, no judgment. Just enough to get you through a temporary disruption in supply. Oh, and a pro tip from the rice connoisseurs out there: store your rice properly. A cool, dry, and dark place is ideal. Those airtight containers your grandma used? Yeah, those are perfect. We're going for maximum freshness and minimum weevils, people. Finally, keep an eye on those export policies. Let's talk about meat, shall we? It's a touchy subject, I know, but whether you're a die-hard carnivore or a committed vegan, there's no denying that meat production is facing some serious challenges. We're talking about rising feed costs, labor shortages, and processing bottlenecks that are making it more expensive and complicated to get meat from the farm to our forks. And then there's the whole climate change elephant in the room. Livestock farming is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, and as the world grapples with the urgent need to reduce our environmental impact, meat consumption is increasingly coming under scrutiny. So what does this mean for our plates? It's about being mindful of our meat consumption and exploring alternative sources of protein. Think beans, lentils, tofu, all delicious, nutritious, and far less resource-intensive to produce than a juicy steak. Supporting local farmers, exploring alternative cuts of meat, and reducing food waste are all great places to start. And hey, if you're feeling really ambitious, why not try your hand at raising your own chickens or rabbits? Chapter 4. Dairy, a moving target. Okay, let's talk dairy. Milk, cheese, yogurt, they're staples in many of our diets. But producing dairy, especially on a large scale, is a resource-intensive process. We're talking about vast amounts of water, land, and feed required to keep those cows happy and producing. And as the costs of these inputs rise, so too does the price of dairy products. And then there's the climate factor. Cows, as it turns out, are not the most climate-friendly creatures on the planet. Their digestive systems produce methane, a potent greenhouse gas, and as the world grapples with the urgency of climate change, the environmental impact of dairy farming is coming under increasing scrutiny. So, what does this mean for our cheese boards and lattes? Well, it might be time to start exploring plant-based alternatives. Almond milk, soy milk, oat milk. The options are endless these days, and many of them are surprisingly delicious and versatile. You can even find plant-based cheeses and yogurts that are pretty darn good, even if I do say so myself. Supporting local dairy farms, choosing organic and pasture-raised options, and reducing food waste are all steps in the right direction. Chapter 5. Fresh Vegetables. From Garden to Gone. All right, let's talk about those vibrant, vitamin-packed wonders we call vegetables. They're the foundation of a healthy diet, but getting them from farm to table is becoming increasingly challenging. Unpredictable weather patterns, from droughts to floods to those weird unseasonal heat waves, can wreak havoc on delicate crops. And as climate change continues to mess with Mother Nature's mood swings, those once predictable growing seasons are becoming a distant memory. Then there's the issue of rising input costs. Seeds, fertilizer, water, they're all getting more expensive, putting a squeeze on farmers' already thin margins. Supporting local farmers markets and community-supported agriculture (CSA) programs is a great way to get fresh seasonal produce while supporting your local economy. But here's the real kicker. Why not try growing some of your own food? Let's talk about fruit, those sweet, juicy gifts from nature. But here's the thing. Growing fruit, especially on a large scale, is a delicate dance with nature, one that's becoming increasingly difficult to predict. Extreme weather events, from late frosts that can wipe out entire blossoms to scorching heat waves that can turn fruit into mush, are becoming more frequent and intense. And as climate change continues to disrupt those delicate ecological balances, the future of fruit production is looking increasingly uncertain. Then there's the issue of pollination. Bees, those unsung heroes of the agricultural world, are facing their own set of challenges, from pesticide exposure to habitat loss. Supporting sustainable farming practices like organic agriculture and integrated pest management is a great place to start. Canning, freezing, drying, they're all time-honored methods for extending the life of fresh fruit. Okay, let's talk about bottled water, that ubiquitous symbol of modern convenience. It's easy to grab a bottle on the go, but at what cost? Producing, transporting, and disposing of all those plastic bottles takes a toll on the environment, from the fossil fuels used in manufacturing to the plastic waste that ends up polluting our oceans and landfills. And then there's the issue of water scarcity. In many parts of the world, access to clean, safe drinking water is a daily struggle. So, what's the alternative? Well, for starters, let's ditch those disposable plastic bottles and embrace reusable water bottles. Home filtration systems, from simple pitcher filters to more sophisticated under-sink or whole-house systems, can remove impurities and improve the taste of your tap water. And if you're feeling really ambitious, why not try rainwater harvesting? Let's be honest, we all have our guilty pleasures, those processed snacks that call to us from the pantry. But behind those brightly colored packages and enticing flavors lies a complex and often fragile supply chain. From ingredients sourced from all corners of the globe to factories churning out millions of snack cakes, the journey of a processed snack from farm to shelf is a marvel of modern logistics. But here's the thing, that complex web of interconnected systems is vulnerable to disruptions. Natural disasters, political instability, transportation bottlenecks, they can all throw a wrench in the works, leading to empty shelves and frustrated snack enthusiasts. Diversifying your snack selection is a good strategy. And here's a thought. Why not try making some of your own snacks at home? So there you have it, folks. The global food system, as amazing and complex as it is facing some real challenges. But here's the good news. By understanding these challenges and taking some simple steps to prepare, we can navigate these uncertain times with a bit more resilience and a lot less panic. It's not about becoming doomsday preppers or hoarding mountains of supplies. It's about making conscious choices, supporting sustainable practices, and maybe even learning a few new skills along the way. Remember, knowledge is power, and a little bit of preparation goes a long way.